Okay, good evening, everyone. It is September 13th. I'm Lisa Dorsey. I'm accompanied by Sheila and Nick Allen, and I am calling the September Public Safety Committee meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is a modification to the agenda, and we are going to have the EMS team go first tonight. Before we do that, though, Chaz, just a second. Any comments from anyone in the audience for things not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, Chaz.
Good evening. Appreciate the flexibility. We have to attend West Whiteland's meeting right after this. So Chaz Bergen, I'm the EMS chief from Good Fellowship Ambulance. In the month of August, 613 total calls, 187 of which were in Westchester Borough. I promise to be short and sweet. So the only thing I'll add is Good Fellowship did send resources to the manhunt for Cavalcante, our tactical paramedics, and also our rehab unit, which medically monitors first responders. So they've been out for the last week or two. We're happy to see that come to a close, and I'm sure Chief Moorhead will expand on that. The only thing is our college population is back, so we will see that uptick in calls and unfortunately some alcohol-related calls, and you'll see them in the reports in the next couple months. So questions at all?
None for me.
All right. Tom Wilcox, our executive director, is going to go over our 2024 budget. So.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, council members. Appreciate your allowing us to come here and certainly always partnering with you. I'm Tom Wilcox, new executive director at Goodwill and Good Fellowship. Indeed. So we have a couple of quick slides. It'll be short and sweet to the point. You're familiar with our service area, 10 municipalities that we serve. 7,500, probably do 7,600 calls this year. So our call volume was up, which is great. For our next slide, our call volume, you can see Westchester occupies the greater percentage of our calls, 29%. Next slide. And we're doing our budget work right now. We're expecting to see 10 to 12% increases in our costs and operating expenses. Our staff salaries, we're going to see going up 16%. Vehicle expenses have been really hitting us hard with 47% increase. Medical supplies, 30% increase. Our insurance costs, 25%. And that's not even taking into account the healthcare costs that'll be coming up. So, but we've been trying to keep our budget nice and tight and lean. We still go out and get a lot of volunteers, getting from the students at Westchester University. Trying to keep our costs within very reasonable amounts. Unfortunately, with our cost increase, there is going to be a request for increase in payments. We had a very nice meeting, a couple of meetings that we invited all the townships and borough to see and be able to ask questions, but you can certainly ask questions tonight. Next slide, please. So for our total municipal funding, we're looking for Westchester at I believe it's about an 8.6, 8.9% increase at $158,299, which still is just half of the expenses that we're trying to recoup on other ways with fundraising and other funding solutions. So we appreciate that you have partnered with us over the years. We look forward to working with the fire department and with serving the population here. And if you have any questions, I'd be open to take them.
I don't have any at this time, thanks. Ms. Vaccaro, Mr. Allen?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll go back and we'll start with the fire chief, Chief Pelna.
Good evening, Steve Pelna, Fire Chief. Our monthly report, our call volumes continue to increase. As you see, 132 calls for August. We're setting, or at least trending towards a record again with 1,018 calls for us thus far. As far as significant incidents, we had a house fire in West Goshen Township in the beginning of the month, small kitchen fire. And then we saw a garage fire out in Westtown. And just a day later, we saw a potential garage fire here in the borough. And the cause of that is a reminder I want to give. It was the same reminder I gave this time of year last year when folks are heating their pizza. Heat the pizza out of the box, not in the box in the oven. And then if the box is on fire, don't dispose of it with other combustible materials. So again, for everybody out there, if you're going to rewarm your pizza, warm it in the oven without the cardboard box or microwave or toaster oven or whatever it may be. So what's that?
Flammable.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I'm being nice. Okay, moving on to the budget, please. Zooming on through. So our fire department, you guys are very well known at this point of us, but just a quick reminder, our command staff, 100% volunteer, so we don't have any salary costs like my other friends in the audience here, but 100% volunteer. Operating costs, our capital, and our equipment we're looking through there. I'm not going to read everybody's name, but that makes up our command staff, which is very robust as you see. 3 fire companies make it up. First Westchester being the eldest. 1799, currently located on 70 South Bradford Avenue, Goodwill on Union Street, and then Fame Fire Company on Rosedale Avenue. 24/7, 173 active members, but we are a volunteer organization. Sometimes you can look at that 80-20 rule about, who volunteers their time and such, but out of the 173, 98 are truly active. They meet all the minimum call requirements, training requirements, that sort of thing throughout the year. We set a record, as I spoke about before, 1,576 calls last year. 518 hours we've been in service thus far to year to date. Certified to serve, have to remind everybody about this, but we were the first fire department in the Commonwealth to be the certified full department in 2010, and we've been continuing that ever since. We're very unique that we have our own fire training facility down on Snyder Avenue, as you know, and it makes it very nice for us because we're available to continue to respond to calls from our own training center here. But it's very unique, and entities come from all over the region, certainly the tri-state, Lower Maryland. We've had some as far as New York come to use our facility. We're also community members, so we're volunteering in the community. So not only are we volunteering our time with the fire department activities, but other type of activities we can do. Everything from Santa runs when he comes down from the North Pole, and Kelly Field helping out with that, flagpoles, lights. Whatever we can do within the community. Of course, the smoke alarm initiative we did this past year. That's a little more in our bandwidth, obviously, but we're also a community member, and we do a lot of volunteering throughout. So 27 square miles we cover. That's what we consider our first due. So we're responsible for anything that happens in those 27 square miles. This is our fleet. So 10 heavies, so considered heavies, the engines, ladders, rescues, our air truck. Medium duties are the recent trucks that we got. The utilities, our lights are our 4 Chiefs vehicles. We have a traffic unit as well. Boats, a little typo there. It's actually 3 boats, 4 trailers, a light tower, and a ATV. So our fire contract. Now we're looking at the next 5-year, as we spoke about in work session last month, that we're potentially going into that. And I have Mr. Metric and Ms. Leonti here too as a backup if there's any other questions, if it's something I can't answer. But we're looking to engage, as we have since '84, a contract with the other 5 municipalities listed here: West Goshen, East Bradford, Westtown, Thornbury, and Birmingham. You look at the funding formula right now, the borough moving into 2024, 40.64% of the costs, with the overall calls for service at 51.7% of the load coming out of the borough itself. When we look at all of our revenue sources, where they're coming, two payments that we receive throughout the year to total 1,320,199. So that's what's coming in on the revenue side. Our expense side, administrative cost, we added that back into the next 5 year. That was omitted in the last 5 year. But Barb and her team broke that down. But mainly, it's the management costs that you see between Mr. Metric, Ms. Leonti, some of the other staff within administration, Dana, certainly the time that they put in to assist us throughout the year. That's built in there. Our mechanics, fleet, on the fleet side as well, bank fees, and overhead again here on the administrative side. So we see that there. Utilities, that's for the individual fire companies. So the borough owns the equipment and the PPE, where the fire stations are separate entities. So basically, it's the rent that's being paid to the fire companies to house all of the apparatus and stuff there. So everything from heating, electric, and those sort of things. Things like cable or phone, that's taken care of by the individual firehouses, but all the essential utilities are through the borough budget. Officer stipends, they're for the captains. Their job, I would say, in the fire department is kind of next behind the fire chief as far as taxing. It's an extremely taxing and time-consuming job. So they're given a stipend that's split up between those folks. The assistant chiefs don't get a stipend. They have the vehicles, the assistant chief vehicles. Equipment and repair maintenance. 35.5 there. Allocation of fire companies. So that's basically split up 4 ways. 3 parts of it are each individual fire company. So that's contributions that's given to them for towards their capital projects. So for instance, we started the Live-In program a few years ago, which has been tremendously beneficial to us all. So upgrades with the fire stations as far as bathrooms, bedding, that sort of thing there. And then the 4th portion of it is through the fire department. That's all of our PPE, our personal protective equipment. So all of our fire gear from top to bottom, helmet, pants, coats. They have a 10-year technically life on them, but because of our activity, we usually don't get 10 years out of them, closer 3 to 5. And we're not recycling everybody in the entire department. It's usually based on their activity level, and we inspect them. There's a portion of that goes out to regular maintenance of the gear, whether it gets washed or repaired along those lines. Fuel expense, pretty obvious there, all of our rolling stock. Vehicle repairs, that's a big number. We came light into that in the last 5-year contract, so that number was certainly increased moving forward. All of our insurances, so work comp, some of the insurances on the vehicles, that's what's coming out of that. So there's our expense side, and then 450 towards our capital expense. So with that, you remember in the 5-year budget or 5-year contract, we talked about the overall taking that number down or flattening it out over the next 5 years. So that additional contribution to that. So when we have the heavy years moving forward, I know Will and his team are working on some grants as well. So in 2027, we're due for one of the engines to be replaced at $1.3 million. So he's confident there's a potential grant out there for half of that cost. And he's also looking at a grant we just found out about to replace one of the boats that would be in the next 5-year contract as well. So we could see a rebate with that moving forward. But the expense side is equal to that or zeroes out on the revenue side at the 1,320, 199. I spoke about the capital, what we're looking for in 2024. Much like we've seen coming up to this point, you approved a brush truck at the beginning or throughout this year. We still haven't seen that. We don't know when we're going to get it. We're on the list. I'd love to see that before the end of the year, but it's not looking great. So that might roll over into next year as well. But the same thing, 2024, we're due for our chief vehicles, currently 2014 police interceptors. So 10-year life cycle on those vehicles. They're run pretty hard. And we'd purchased those through the CoStars. We have an $85,000 budget on those for the chassis and the upfit for those vehicles. But the hope would be to get through the approval process. The way things are going now, even if we get through it by the end of the year, I would be surprised if we order them in the first quarter if we'll get them within 2024. So we're hopeful. Fireman's Relief, just want to remind everybody about that sign. Kind of behind the scenes, you don't really see. They're another organization within the fire department. They have a whole separate administration, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. But you see some of the numbers here, or at least what they're contributing to. On most years, they're contributing more than comes in, or it's more significant than you see here. The bottom line there, their expenditures compared to their income. Now they're taking an income from all the municipalities within the 27 square miles, but they brought in 2022 $333,000, but they paid out $335,000. That was an odd year for them. If you look at the years before, they were contributing significantly more than that, but they're contributing to insurance. You can see I listed them all out there. And really the Fireman's Relief is directly for the firefighters themselves. So if you think about that, firefighter safety, wellness, that sort of thing. So umbrella policies, we have a tremendous policy with, line of duty deaths. Unfortunately, we've had to use that in the past, and it's a very substantial thing. And I'm glad we have that. Any kind of gap insurances, if there's any loss of wages from our volunteers. And it also covers outside of firefighting duty. So we've been able to build that up, which has been great. Personal auto policy. So we have all these individuals responding to the stations if they're involved in a motor vehicle accident on the way. There's coverage for that as well. Our websites and paging, significant amount there, almost $20,000 in our paging system and our website. So I'm kind of a dinosaur that I carry a pager still, but everybody's getting all their paging, text messages, that sort of thing. So that system is through that. Training expenses, not only internally, but externally. We're just getting ready to send some people down to Texas. A lot of safety equipment, fit test machines, that sort of thing. And then over $4,000 they put into our wellness fitness centers, gyms in the fire companies throughout the year. Sorry, long-winded there. I know everybody's ready to ask me tons of questions.
I don't have any, Chief.
Okay, all right. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
you.
Okay, Chief Moorhead?
Good evening, James Moorhead, Chief of Police. I'm going to forego the police department's monthly report, but I'd be glad to take any questions since Chief Pelna stole all my time. I will cover two things briefly, but the monthly report is available online. I'm sure you've read it ahead of time, so it's available for anybody to look right on our website. College is back, and the police officers have been very vigilant out there. They've been out doing heavy enforcement, trying to set a zero tolerance policy. So they've been very active with the college students, trying to educate them, making sure that everyone behaves and treats all of our residents with respect. So that's off and running. The other thing briefly is the Danilo Cavalcante capture today. We're all relieved by that. I can tell you that for nearly the last 14 days, the Westchester Police Department has had a big presence in that operation. Our local SWAT team, which is regional, The Westchester Police Department staffs 8 of those SWAT officers, so they have been out in the heat, getting stung in the mouth by bees. One of our one of our Westchester officers. I have a great picture of it if you want to see it. And dealing with all of the terrain issues, the weather issues, and everything else. We've had drone operators assisting at the scene. And uniform patrol has been instrumental the past couple days up in the northern part of the county, helping out with intersections. So this is something that we took obviously a vested interest in assisting in, and I'm glad to see that nobody was hurt in the end. So, any questions regarding the August monthly report before I get into the budget?
No, I'd just like to say thank you to you and all the officers and teams that have been out there for the last 14 days.
Yeah.
Saw how challenging it was. Can only imagine actually being part of that.
Yeah, it was a huge undertaking. I was at the main command post over the weekend. Lieutenant Lee took much of the lead from my staff to make sure he was present every day down there, making sure that anything they needed, Westchester was front and center to try to help out with the needs. But I got down there myself. It was quite an impressive operation. So thank you. I'll make sure I pass it on to the men and women. Jumping into the police department, 2024 budget, which is typically the elephant in the room. I don't come with all bad news this year. So we can get started with the budget. The Westchester Police Department will promote peace and safety, enforce laws equitably, partner with our neighbors, and provide exceptional service to make Westchester the best possible place to live, work, go to school, and visit. Our organizational outcomes are listed below. And obviously, the last one is paramount to us. We work extremely hard every day to make sure that we improve quality of life to everyone in the borough. Our core services, not really a change for upcoming. We know 2 years ago that a study was done and there was an increase of staffing put on our doorstep to go from 44 officers to 46. It's still my professional belief today that we are right-sized at 44. So that number is what we're going to carry into 2024. We have the 44 officers broken up, as you see above, 30 officers in the patrol unit, 6 detectives. We have a community resource and traffic unit of 4 officers. We have 4 officers in administration. You'll see one little change right there with the 3.5 civilian and administrative employees. We have decided, after having talks with Mr. Metric, that we went from 2 full-time records position personnel to 1 full-time and 1 extremely part-time position in the records division. And that resource has been allocated upstairs here to assist with the fire department and other functions of the borough. To my knowledge, I think the police department is still carrying that salary, but we are taking a hard look at everything we do. We've become much more digitized. Everything's become so electronic today that we're able to tighten it just a little bit and move down to 1.5 records personnel. Our communications and dispatch is still staffed with 6 full-time, a chief PIO and chief dispatcher, and then 2 part-time dispatchers. So we're looking to keep this staffing moving into 2024. We are currently at full staff, which is a good thing to see. The budget ask for 2024 is $11,148,674, which honestly is a good thing, which is, I told you I was coming with good news. We're only looking at a 1.53% increase going into the year. There's a lot of reasons for this, and I'll cover those in a second. But as you can see, 76% of that goes towards our personnel costs, and 23% to operating expenses, and 1% towards our capital expenditures. 94% of the police department budget is fixed. I can't touch that. It is $10.5 million. It is all our contractual pension insurance costs. It's fixed. And so I'm playing with a very small part of that. We do our very best, and I think Mr. Metric will attest, and so will Barb, Ms. Leonti. We hammer through our budget hard every year. We look at where there's loose strings and we tighten it up. So we bring results to the table each year, and I think we did that again this year, trying to find places where we could cut some costs and make some savings. So here we are with that. We're projecting 3.67% increase in personnel costs, which is just over $300,000. This is lower than normal, than what we typically see in personnel cost rise. The main reason for this is that in 2022 and the beginning of 2023, we had four officers retire or resign. We had 3 retirements and 1 resignation. You take away those top earning police officers, bring in new officers down towards the bottom of the salary scale. We see a savings right there. Barb's worked hard, and we have other savings in insurance costs, our MMO cost, and all of that when put together brings our budget down to a nice place. The police department has reimbursement and other sources that come through the East Bradford contract, overtime reimbursement through the FBI task force, the county district attorney's office through the municipal drug fund, and some other sources. And in 2024, we're looking to generate just over $2.2 million on the revenue side. Some of the things for increase in our operating budget, there's a $10,000 increase in training due to our accreditation status and the needs of that. And the other one is not an increase, it's just a shift. You'll see a 105% increase in our car line, only because that was always a capital project, the purchase of vehicles. And since the vehicles are going to be leased in 2024, that's now become a line item in our operating budget. So it's actually cheaper, if that makes sense. The cost is just shifted over to our operating instead of where it used to live in our capital. So when you see that, it's not a increase at all. Capital projects for 2024, and this is another reason why our budget's coming in at a reasonable rate, all things considered, is our capital requests for 2024 are pretty low. Vehicle upfitting, our continuation of getting our K-9 program off the ground, and then a new ask, which isn't approved yet. I'm looking for an additional drone now in light of Cavalcante and some of the other needs we've had in the borough. We've been very active with our new drone program, so we're going to be looking for another one in 2024. So our capital project cost is very low for 2024. I will give you a little bit of a heads up that we have some tough asks coming down the road in 25, 26, and 27 due to aging body-worn cameras and aging in-car video cameras. So those are going to need replacement. And Lieutenant Deegan's already been working on grant sources and trying to work with different vendors to see if there's better equipment out there for us to start moving to. As always, our job can't be done without strong men and women, and the Westchester Police Department has the best. And I always finish with thanking them, because without their dedication and professionalism, they make me look good. So I'll take any questions you have. No? Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
All righty. Thank you.
Okay, we are on to item 3D, discuss amending chapter 104-20, certain classes of vehicles prohibited on certain highways. And there was an attachment.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to start by thanking the police department, because I am personally relieved that the fugitive is no longer a current public safety concern. So that was great news to see this morning. So the borough, I'm from Remington and Vernick Engineers, for anyone that does not know me. I'm a consultant for the borough in regards to traffic matters. The borough asked us to review the PennDOT policy regarding the procedures for restricting truck access on local roadways throughout the borough. So we were asked several questions in regards to this matter. The first question was, what current roads in the borough are restricted to truck traffic? These roads can be found in Chapter 104 of your ordinance. There's nearly 20 of them. There's 19 to be specific. The roads listed with existing truck restrictions. The second question that we were asked was, how do we define a truck and how should we define a truck? The state vehicle code defines a truck as a motor vehicle that is primarily designed to transport property. Typically, if warranted, signs are posted restricting trucks with trailers greater than 45 feet. However, there are possibilities to restrict trucks based on weight and other sizes. The third question that was asked was, how was it enforced? Per the Borough Ordinance Chapter 104, fines for trucks along restricted local roadways is a maximum of $50. There's also a way to enforce through imprisonment in the county jail for a maximum of 10 days. Enforcement of these restrictions would be by the local police department. The second part of that, the jail, is typically because a company might send a roadway out and they'll just say, I'll pay the $50 because I'm getting paid such and such to make this delivery anyway, so it's worth it to them. So that's why they typically have that second part in the ordinance. The fourth question that we were asked were, what roads should the borough add to the restricted list? There are several factors that the borough should consider and review when they're adding roads to this restricted list. PennDOT, of course, advises that the borough review the roadway geometry, the use of the road, and the characteristics of the properties adjacent to that road when determining what roadways you want to have truck restrictions on. The fifth question that we were asked was, can we impose time restrictions on downtown deliveries on Gay Street? And do we have a suggestion? Typically weekday peak morning and peak afternoon hours have restrictions on truck traffic. The borough also has, and this is also common, the borough also has restrictions during the nighttime hours for truck traffic from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. The next question that we were asked was, what's the process of changing truck patterns in the borough? So PennDOT provides a warrant for truck restrictions found in their form TE 109. If a restriction is warranted, the borough would need to adopt an ordinance on any truck restrictions. And once the ordinance is adopted, signage would need to be installed to notify motorists of new restrictions. So that's if the roads are not currently in your ordinance. If there are roads on your ordinance that currently have truck restrictions, you can enforce them more by, again, using police presence, but also installing additional signage. So if you have any questions, please ask them.
I don't know that I have a question, but it seems rather timely given the comments that we heard last night from one of our residents in truck traffic. I guess my question might be for Mr. Metric around what are the next steps? So we've gotten all this information from RBE. What are the next steps?
I think some things we can do administratively is do an audit of these streets that are in the ordinance and make sure they're properly signed. There's already been conversations, I think, with the police department about potential enforcement in light of the conversation last night. Obviously, enforcement is the key to making these restrictions work. And I thought it was a good idea for council to consider an increase in the fine because right now it's I don't know when the last time it was edited, but $50 is a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I believe that 50, and I could have read this wrong. There was an early 80s where this came from. It was edited in the early 90s, I believe, but a long time ago, and I don't know that the price went up at that 90s. So way out of date, in my opinion.
Kelly's here to help us understand the process if we want to make any changes to our existing regulations, but I think we can do some work internally to make sure what we do have on the books is clear and gets enforced. And I think if we cooperate with the police on that one, we can probably make a little headway there.
And I mean, I've had experience with this and I know Chief Moorhead has helped. You know, I've gotten complaints in my ward around where there's no truck traffic and there is truck traffic. So I know the police have been helping enforce that in the past. So I imagine we'll continue to do that throughout the borough. I would agree with reviewing the fine amount and increasing that. The audit of the streets and any additional streets that we would want to add to that ordinance.
My concern moving forward is the additional buildings that are going up in the borough, including the warehouse. I think that we really need to take into account the future plans for what these streets are going to look like and how much traffic is going to be generated by these new buildings. I also want to worry about the Gay Street closure and the just organization of Gay Street, how we can limit truck traffic time-wise on Gay Street further than it is now.
And
Is
then-
there any
Sorry.
specific roads that you guys have in mind that you would want to impose truck restrictions on, or?
Speaking from the second ward, I know we've had issues on specifically the 0 block of South Walnut Street, and that is, it's tight. I used to live there, and I had a roommate whose car got like dragged because there just wasn't enough of a turn radius there, and so they just clipped it, and the car attached to the trailer, and off it went, which was insane to see. We also have a lot of issues on that block with just idling trucks or trucks parking on the sidewalk, which is kind of insane to see as well. So like I've been in contact with dispatch about that when it's happened on behalf of one of the residents in the second ward. So just love to make sure that's on the record as well as we move forward with this.
Wayne Street, which I use Street all the time. It's a way to get through the borough, but it's really tight and trucks should not be on it. And then there's Price Street, but that's a whole separate issue.
I'm sure we would hear lots of suggestions from residents should we open this up. So something to think about.
So Kelly, just to be clear too, we wouldn't be able to restrict truck traffic on any state designated routes. Is that correct?
No, so you would have to consult with PennDOT, but I imagine that they would say they would not want to restrict truck traffic on the state designated route. Anything, and also just to supplement the statement I just said, the reason why PennDOT has to be consulted is that they don't want their operations to be, they want to make sure their operations aren't being affected in a negative way by the restrictions that are being placed on local roads.
Any other comments from council?
No.
Any comments from residents? Okay, I think we know our next steps. Thank you, Kelly. All right, now on to action items. 4A, approve participation in the Domestic Violence Awareness Month event on October 2023. Also an attachment. Is there anyone here representing?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Noah Stribney. I'm the program coordinator at the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County, and I'm also a graduate student at Westchester University seeking to obtain my master's in public administration. Our public education director, who's a Henderson graduate and the vice president of the Westchester Public Library Board of Trustees, sends her respects. She unfortunately couldn't make it here tonight due to childcare conflicts. So I'm here to talk about our Paint the Town Purple campaign. If you aren't familiar with our agency, the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County, we are a county-serving nonprofit based in the Westchester Borough. We are dedicated to providing free and confidential services to victims of domestic violence in the county. Domestic violence is defined as a pattern of abusive behaviors used by an intimate partner or family member to gain and maintain power and control over a victim or victims. Domestic violence impacts an estimated 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men, and 1 in 3 teens, according to data from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. At the Domestic Violence Center, we answer almost 3,000 hotline calls, and we serve over 1,500 individuals annually. The Westchester area, which is our home, is our second highest area of service, with Coatesville ranking first, Downingtown following in third place, followed by Oxford and Phoenixville at fourth and fifth, respectively. One of our most impactful initiatives, which is what I'm here to talk about today, is the Paint the Town Purple campaign. This countywide awareness campaign is our way of shining light on domestic violence during October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Through this campaign, we have volunteers who are dedicated to decorating downtown areas of Chester County with purple ribbons. These ribbons are not just for aesthetics. We also have tags with the ribbons that contain hotline information as well as service information. And this year, we're proud to say that the tags are waterproof, ensuring durability throughout the month of October. Additionally, each ribbon that hangs from that light pole conveys a powerful message, and that's that our community stands together, that we support survivors, and that we are committed to breaking the silence surrounding domestic violence. Remarkably, this will be our 8th consecutive year running this campaign right here in Westchester. We deeply appreciate the consistent support that we have received from this community over the years. I cannot emphasize that enough. Our efforts to paint the town purple are made possible with the assistance of Henderson High School student volunteers from the Fempowerment Club. They have really been instrumental in helping us hang ribbons, not just throughout Westchester, but throughout Chester County. They hang the ribbons also in accordance to the borough's outline specifications, 6 feet high at least, and exclusively on light poles. In total, we have 75 ribbons at our disposal for Westchester to decorate Market Street between New and Matlack, Gay Street between New and Matlack, and High Street between Gay and Market. Our dedicated volunteers also ensure that these ribbons grace our streets for the duration of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This year, we aim to hang the ribbons from Friday, the 29th of September through Monday, the 2nd of October. And additionally, our volunteers will take on the responsibility of removing the ribbons at the end of the month. Really, in closing, our Paint the Town Purple campaign is a testament to the strength of our community and the collective determination to stand against domestic violence. It really showcases the power of partnerships as we continue to work hand in hand with local businesses, law enforcement, and educational institutions throughout the county. I want to once again just express my gratitude for your unwavering support. We are really excited about the possibility of running this campaign once again for the 8th consecutive year here in Westchester. And once again, we are excited to have this campaign with the goal of spreading awareness, offering support, and building a community that stands together against domestic violence. That's really it. I'd be happy to answer any questions relating to the campaign or to our organization, if there are any.
No, your question is just, will we support it and the hanging the ribbons, the purple ribbons, which we've done in the past, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Something we've done in the past. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for your time. Right, on to 4B, approve submission of the Price Street traffic calming application to PennDOT, RVE traffic engineer attachment.
Hi again, Kelly Goff. I'm with RVE, traffic engineering consultant for the borough. Give a brief summary of what we've been working on in terms of the Price Street and Brandywine Street intersection. In early July, we had a traffic calming discussion and pedestrian safety discussion with PennDOT via Teams with myself, borough staff, and PennDOT. We asked them what we would be able to do at that intersection to help traffic calming and help pedestrian safety, what they would permit. Because as you're aware, Price Street is a state route. On August 1st, PennDOT got back to us and they determined that the borough would be able to do 3 items at that intersection at this time. And that includes painting of the curb yellows to restrict parking at that intersection, additional signage to prevent parking at that intersection, boxing out, like putting an X in a box right near that intersection to restrict the parking there, but also still create a traffic calming effect for vehicles going down. It makes the road feel more narrow when roads are going down or when vehicles are traveling, and when the road feels more narrow, vehicles tend to travel slowly. The third item that they suggested was, again, installing pedestrian crossing signs at both the crosswalk and in advance of the crossing. So on August 30th, the borough staff and myself reviewed these various measures and determined that all three measures should be implemented. The Public Works Department is capable of constructing these improvements. And lastly, these measures would have to be laid out on a plan for PennDOT to review. And the cost of services for RVE to put that plan together would be $2,400. And that's a summary of what's been going on with the Price Street intersection. Do you guys have any questions?
I do not. None. Any from, if you'd like to come up to the podium, state your name, please.
Just have a couple of questions. I'm Patty Stanton, 508 Price Street. What are the signs that PennDOT and the borough are considering? Are they median signs as was proposed in the first document that you put together in the road, or are they going to be on the side of the road? On the side of the road. So I think it'd be more effective if they were the style that was in the road, because again, it creates a visual. And I guess of all the things that, I guess the main question I have is that of all the things that were in the original proposed, well, it wasn't a proposal, report, how were these filtered down and chosen? These do mainly address the intersection, but not the documented speeding problem on Price in general. So, thank you.
So we consulted with PennDOT and asked them what we would be able to do in the short term. So these are the three measures that we would be able to do in a relatively short time period. There are other measures that you can implement in the long term if the council wish to do so.
I believe the last time we met about this, we did say we would look at the short-term remedies first and apply those and see what results we got, while, in parallel, seeing what the long-term options were as well, if I recall correctly. Anyone else? Mr. Vitola?
Realize that this is a short-term solution, but how do you intend to measure the effectiveness of these recommendations? And my next question is, and you're not going to like this one, is that I understand the reasons why you folks chose to walk away from the possibility of a four-way stop intersection there. What is the possibility of revisiting that subject in the event that this does not turn out to be an effective solution? There are other places that I've been to, Malvern on King Road, for example, which is a state road where I have a very difficult time understanding the justification for stop signs on that road. So my point is, and I return to this many times, is that this is not just a technical or engineering issue, it's a political problem. And with the increasing volumes of traffic you're going to experience in this town, not just truck traffic, this is going to become more and more of an issue and a more of a quality of life and safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
We can measure the effectiveness of these short-term solutions by doing a follow-up speed study and comparing it to the speed study that was done prior to implementing these measures.
Thank you. I know this is not necessarily what we all wanted, but it is a step forward and I'm going to go for it.
Okay, seeing no other comment. 4C, approve the August 2023 Public Safety and Quality of Life meeting minutes. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, all three. Any other business? Seeing none, meeting is adjourned at 6:20. Thank you.